Hi, I'm Mr. Mojo, and I'm going to be your tour guide today. I built the Purple Palace for you, your friends, and all the people that get to ride it every year here at Burning Man. I'm going to walk you through step by step as many things as I can to show you how to maintain it, what everything is, and how to drive it. Hopefully this video helps you so you don't have to call me every time you have a question. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy. Cut. So one of the things that you need for the Purple Palace is a big truck. In past years, we've even used 2 trucks, as you see here. This is James. He's a great guy. Together, we both own the same exact model and year box truck, by coincidence, really. But you're going to need it for the water tank, water pumps, tools. You're probably going to want a fridge and freezer for extra ice, beverages, camp stuff. You're going to want a lot of hoses, air compressor, speakers, amplifiers. You're going to want lots of chairs, things like that. Of course, bicycles, if you don't leave them on the bus, you're going to need more space for that. I could not do and could never have done this with a pickup truck and a trailer. I've tried it, didn't work so well. These box trucks are $6 grand. I highly recommend getting one of these. Okay. The batteries for the Palace are they're 8D batteries, 8D. And the 8D batteries, this battery was bought at Sam's Wholesale Club in Reno, Nevada. It's unknown to me whether or not they still sell them. The other battery I bought also in Reno at a commercial Napa. There's a lot of Napa auto parts stores. There's only one commercial. It's made for big trucks. These batteries are heavy as heck. You gotta wear gloves for every single thing you do on the Palace except putting nuts on bolts. There's a lot of sharp edges. Handles look like this. They're very heavy. I would walk fast. You're going to be going that way with the battery, so walk that way. They just go into the tray. You pull the tray out of the bin like that. You get all the wires back in the back, and then you drop the batteries. So all 4 terminals are in the middle, and your disconnect switches are in the off position, which they are now. We'll come back to this in a few minutes. Okay. Scorpions have been known to be underneath the Purple Palace at times. They're pretty noticeable. They're biting scorpions, and they won't kill you, but they will make your ankle or whatever part of the body they bite swell up for a few days like a bee sting. So I prefer to sit on a blanket. Helps keep the scorpions away. Wire brush should be on the list. I like to clean the battery terminals prior to putting the batteries on, so you get a real good connection. It's a very high amp motor to start. Also, the battery terminals I like to wire brush so they're clean and they get a good connection too. There's a lot of stories about people replacing a lot of parts in their cars because they don't have good battery connections. It's one of the more important things. Now that we're dealing with 2 8D batteries here, your biggest fear is connecting one of these poles to the other pole with any metal object. It will arc. It will weld that metal object to one of the poles, and when you try to grab it, it will be red hot. So hot that it will give you third or worse, melt right through your skin. Really hot, red hot. Gloves, essential while working on the battery. Battery acid can leak out a little bit while you're on your journey. These little drops of water, they look like water, that's sulfuric acid. It's really, really acidic. It will burn holes in your clothes, on your shirt. You don't want to get that on you. Really bad stuff. Alright? So your terminals are all laid out behind the batteries. You see the word positive on this battery, and you see a plus sign on this battery, meaning positive. I'm going to pull my terminals up here, making sure they don't make contact with the terminals on the batteries. Alright, this is a 24-volt system, so you're hooking 2 batteries up to 4 leads in a series. Alright, which means you're going from negative. Here, it's not red. Alright, it's just all silver. Positive here. See positive here? This positive wire goes straight across to here, to this negative terminal. Yes, you're hooking a positive to a negative, and then here is your other positive over here. Alright? The power is in all essence going like this. Alright? It's really strange. It's 24 volt. You're using 2 12-volt batteries to make a 24-volt big-ass battery. This is the largest battery array of any vehicle on the highway that I could possibly think of. This is a lot of power right here. Alright? But the thing is, you could drain it really fast with those inverters if that engine gets shut off. It's always charging, it's always running the power to the inverters while the engine is running. That engine gets shut off accidentally or on purpose. Before you shut off the inverters and all the other lights first, these are going to drain so fast it will not start the engine when you want to restart. Alright. So, cleaning battery terminal. See, the wire brush isn't hurting my hands because I got gloves on. This is just all playa dust mostly. This isn't really corrosion. Alright. So another really important thing about the batteries is they're all hooked to at least 4 big wires that go to the inverters. The inverters have to be looked at like free electricity. You're not spending any more money on fuel. They're always working as long as the engine's on. And you could pump about 3,000 or 4,000, maybe more watts out of them. They're rated for 5,000 watts peak each, which says 10,000 watts. But in all reality, you're putting around the playa all the time at idle, so the alternator isn't spinning up to full operating speed, which means the inverters can't get as much energy, and also your batteries don't charge as fast. I have found between 3,000 and 5,000 watts are what you can expect to pull. And inverters do not like fluorescent light tubes. Your fluorescent lights should be run off of your generator, if at all possible. There's a deal with the ballasts in fluorescent lights that don't work well with the modified sine wave inverters that are installed on this particular model, Purple Palace. Serial number 1. Alright, I'm going to hook my positives up first without any negatives. There shouldn't be a spark because there's no negatives. I'm going to push my batteries in because this wire is a little short. This is a circuit breaker right here that goes to one of the inverter wires. Alright? If the circuit breaker pops, that little thing will flip forward. These are fuses. Here's another fuse. 1, 2, 3 fuses all right there for inverters. Alright? If your inverters get wet or you take them off and you forget to hook them back up before you put the batteries in because you're in a hurry, all these fuses will blow. And you'll be partially screwed. Here's some fuses. Here's some more fuses. You want to replace them with the same size fuses that are in there. Any smaller and you'll be pulling less power or popping them. Look back there in the back hole. There's 2 more fuses way back there. I think that covers all the fuses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fuses and 1 circuit breaker. Wait, 6 fuses. Here's another one right here. So there's 6 big wires with fuses. All right, these are big, I think they're called AGP fuses. Yeah, AGU fuses. These are 70 amp. That's a big amount of power. All right, that's more than I have for a hot tub at my house, for example. That's only 50 amp, and that uses 8,000 watts. These are big fuses. You have to screw up a lot to get these to pop. And then there's this. So there's 8 wires total coming off of these batteries just to feed the inverters. All right, good information. I'm tapping with wood, not a hammer, not metal. This plastic around this whole terminal can easily break. You don't want a big shock with a hammer. All right. So I'm going to push my batteries in a little bit because that wire is a little short. Everything's big with the purple palace. Now, I'm watching these 2 terminals on this big master switch here and this wire here. Alright, I don't want that wire to touch them. I'm watching everything really carefully. This is not something to do when you have a buzz, you're sleep deprived, taking them in or out. This is a really serious game here. You could really hurt yourself. Alright, I got my other positive. And it's tapped on. Now we're going to tighten it. These things over here, these are called tool sets. They're pretty cheap usually. I bought one of them at Costco and the other one at like Harbor Freight Tools. You probably want 2 or 3 different ones because you'll either lose parts of them or one of them will come with something that the other one doesn't. For example, this one comes with Allen keys, metric and standard. This one does not. But this one comes with the Allen keys on little tiny bit heads. This one has those too. This one, obviously looking at it, has a lot more stuff. It's good to have backups though. We're talking like 25 bucks a set, you know. So the gold-plated terminals here, I believe, are metric, and the non-gold-plated ones are standard. So as you see here, this one is standard because it's not gold-plated. It's a 1/2 inch. All right. I'm just going to tighten that up. If you over-tighten this, it will strip everything out, and then you'll be screwed. So, nice and snug. It doesn't move around anymore, as seen here in photo. Next, we're going to figure out what metric size wrench that one is there. You can just set those in the egg. We'll be over in a minute. Common sizes with metric are 12, 14, 17, and 19. And 10 is the most common by far. Here's a 14. It's the right size. We got a winner. Alright, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You have to do it backwards when you're doing the back side here. If this wrench is touching a positive and those negatives are hooked up, and it slips and hits that, it's going to arc. If I'm tightening something like this and I slip over here and hit that terminal, it's going to arc. When something arcs, that wrench turns red hot in like a 1/2 second, and it will burn your skin off your hand. It's good to have a wood prying tool around like that, like this, because if you got a red hot wrench, you can stick the wood underneath it and pop it, and it's not going to get hot so fast. Good things to think about. Alright, now we're going to go into our negatives. We're actually going to complete circuits now. This is where, if there's anything on in the bus, you'll know about it real quick. If there's something shorting on the bus, you'll know about it real quick. So first we're going to give the bus 12 volts, and you're going to hear a spark just like that. I'm feeling this with my gloves on to make sure it's not getting hot. Because immediately if there's a short somewhere, she's going to get warm real quick, and I'm going to yank her off before she gets too hot, hopefully. If you're a pussy and you run away and just let it stay red hot, you're going to burn the whole bus down. Don't be a pussy. So I'm kind of twisting this because I'm not going to be able to get a wood tap in there very easily. I'm going to try though. That's about as good as it's going to get there. And we kind of got a little bit of a loose nut up top here. You can see these are moving around a lot. Now right now this is real dangerous in here because I'm touching hot wires right next to another hot wire. But I didn't really clean that as well as I wanted to, so I'm cleaning it a little bit more. So what size was that? Not 1/2 inch, but 14 millimeter. Alright, so we're going to tighten our 14 millimeter righty-tighty, but backwards because we're doing it reverse. And righty-tighty basically means clockwise. Alright, now our last connection of the day right here. Big spark, see that fucker? Oh yeah, that's from the inverter capacitors filling up. The inverters have big old capacitors to hit when your base is hitting. So when other things start up, it's that 10,000 watt peak thing we were just talking about. Alright, clockwise. Don't hit the wrench into any metal things. There's a big hole right here on top. I did that. That right there is from a wrench hitting and arcing. I've learned the hard way, trying to make sure you don't. Alright. We're just going to tighten that nice and snug, just so the terminal doesn't spin around. Tighter doesn't always mean better. Cleaner means better. Any corrosion buildup between 1 and 2 pieces right there, and that will serve as an insulator. You will not get a good connection, but this doesn't need to be so dang tight. Again, if you strip this out, you'll be putting a new bolt through here. A new bolt with new threads. Alright, probably a washer or two too. Now that the Palace batteries are fully hooked up, I'm going to check for the wires back behind the battery, so when I do shove these in there, I know that I'm not crimping any wires, making them like a hose that cuts the water off. You don't want any power wires like that either, because then you got friction, and then you might wear off the insulator, and then you got a short. This is a lot of energy, as I said before, and this is a lot of energy that could go really wrong if you don't do this correctly. But I just showed you every little aspect that I know of in this wonderful little battery compartment. So this thing used to hit these bolts and push it back, but it just kind of goes up there, and as you see here, this hole hits the bolts here, and that locks that in. And then when you lock this door down, it locks this in and it holds the whole system together. Do not drive the Purple Palace with this door unlocked. That means people, children, can walk up, open this up, and shock the hell out of themselves. Bad news. Alright, now that the batteries are in, these are the master switches that put power to the main control board up front, the computer for the transmission, and the computer for the engine. I'm going to flip them on. If you look right here, it says on, and right here it says on. All the way across. All the way across. Now the Palace has power. The question is, will it start? Okay. Alright, the Purple Palace engine compartment 101. The pole is an essential part of keeping it up, unless you have a large group of beautiful women, preferably scantily clad, that would like to hold it up for you. Then you got a great view. But it might distract you from the work that's truly at hand, which is in here. This is a Detroit diesel 6V92 engine. It's a 6-cylinder with 92 cubic inches per cylinder. It's turbocharged and blown. It has blowers in each head. That's correct. I know a lot about engines. This is a rare thing. You have a turbocharger right there. I'm touching it right now. All right. And then inside each head, right in here, are chain-driven blowers. All right. Both of those are designed to compress the air further and further, so the high compression air-fuel mixture going into the engine explodes better than at normal atmospheric pressure. All right, the water temp and the oil pressure gauges actually still work. This was an air start system. This is in-op. All right. This is the back side of your air filter in here, which is accessible on the other side in its own little hatch. The fuel comes into the engine compartment from the fuel tank, as you see in this arrow, from this hose right here. This is the first fuel filter in the system. There are many brands. I can give you Donaldson numbers, Napa numbers, lots of different numbers. These are very common fuel filters. They are not difficult to find. Then the fuel goes down here into the fuel pump. So the fuel pump is sucking through this filter. All right. And then it comes back out of that area from a hose back there, which lets fuel come through the computer lid here. This is a computer lid. One time we had the O-rings fail in this little block right here, and they were sucking some air into the system. And that was a lot of work to find out that that's what it was. And once the air bubbles get in the system, it doesn't want to start every morning. Then the fuel comes back out of the cooling computer lid and this block right here, down this hose, and back into this secondary fuel filter. This is a much more finer particle filter. You got a pre-filter, secondary filter. It comes out of that and then gets pushed by the fuel pump into the fuel system. All right, over here, that's all water. This is your water pump. This is water coming to and from heads here, here, here. So this is probably going in from your radiator, in through your heads and into your engine. And then this is fuel going back down into the radiator over here. Your radiator's gigantic. It probably holds 20 gallons. Make sure it's 50-50, 50% water, 50% ethylene glycol, or you could spend the extra money and have somebody actually mix it at that ratio, because it's such a hard thing to do. This is your exhaust right here. We took out the catalytic converter. Yes, it actually had one on a diesel. And we put a straight pipe in. That's why she sounds nice and throaty. Above this little container back here, which is accessible from the side, is your coolant reservoir. This is where all your extra radiator coolant, just like in your car, goes. You'll need a funnel to fill that. All right. Everything on this engine except for the hydraulic fluid pump, everything on the engine is chain driven internally. So that means it's oiled from engine oil, and it's a chain, so you don't have to replace it, and it's bulletproof, including the generator system. This alternator down here is not being used. It is just junk. It is locked up, and who cares? Also down there you can see the starter down low. There's the solenoid on top of it and a big ass starter. Alright, the generator is viewable from the hatch inside the back of the bus. Down here, come on over. Point the camera down there. Down here where I'm pointing is the hydraulic fluid pump, and there is a belt on that. And I'm feeling it right now with my fingers, and it feels like it's still good. For some reason somebody shoved this belt down here like they needed it, or wanted to see if it would fit on that alternator. That's not the alternator for the bus. It's on the other side of the engine. Alright? It was for the air conditioner or something, which is gone. This belt is a $100 belt. This is the correct belt for the hydraulic fluid pump. I'd get it put on in the next couple of years, because the one that's on it is 10, 12, 15 years old, who knows. This is a nice belt. It's very hard to find this belt. I had to have it overnighted here the last time we went here because I wasn't sure the other one was going to hold up. And you have it. Take care of it. All right, we're going to try to start it now that we put the batteries in it. And I'll just set that down there for now. We'll put that back in the front. Since it hasn't run in a couple years, and what you want to do is optimize the amount of power that you're getting out of the batteries. Batteries can't start this thing forever like a lot of cars seem to. So to make sure it starts quicker, we try to use some starting fluid. All right, we're going to spray that starting fluid into this little hole right here that I put in the air filter to ease the use of getting started fluid into there without having to pull the air filter every damn time. All right. Oh yeah, this thing here, this is where you put your oil. Not car oil, diesel oil. All right. Cut. All right, so we'll take our starting fluid and I'm gonna spray about that much. And I'm gonna let it set for a second because that's actually soaking into the pleats of the paper air filter. And it's getting me high. Ether. We're gonna click rear engine run. And this is the start button. We're gonna see if she cranks over. Started right up. That was really easy. That was 2 years of sitting. We didn't take 2 takes. That was the initial start. It was instant. That's how it's supposed to be. The Purple Palace is a solid vehicle. Come on over here. Now, this switch over here is set to off. I'm going to turn it to day run. Alright, and now I'm going to see this light here. Low air is flashing. Right over here on this side. You got that? Flash. Flash. Alright, so low air is flashing. The bus will not drive until that's done flashing and the beeping you hear, that horn stops. Once that stops, that means the suspension has filled up, the bus has lifted, and it's ready to drive. Until that point, you can't drive it. It won't let you drive it. All right. The low coolant light is on because I have not added a gallon of antifreeze and water 50-50 mix to the reservoir yet. All right. It's in neutral. That's a good thing. You want to make sure for some reason it's not in drive. Alright. Over here, the parking brake is pulled up. That means it's applied. The parking brake is only operating when there's air. You need to wheel chock the tires. There's rocks in front of every tire. If you don't put rocks in front of the tires when you get back to the ranch and that air bleeds out, the Palace could possibly, we've never seen it happen, could possibly roll down the hill on its own and crash into other art cars. You must chock the tires when you come back from Burning Man. Very, very important. Cut. This is the type of funnel you need because it turns like that. Any other type of funnel is substandard equipment for use with this Purple Palace vehicle, serial number 1. I always write on my container once I've diluted the mixture from full strength to half strength. So I save my empties, and then my next full container I'll mix into the empty. You could also buy this mixed, as I said before, but instead of like $4, you're gonna pay like $6.50. You're gonna pay $2.50 for water and less coolant. For $4.50, you get 2 full gallons. For $6.50, you get half that. Stupidest thing people have ever bought. Mixed coolant. Cut. Tires for the Purple Palace are not just semi-truck tires. They're improved on semi-truck tires because the transit bus tire is made to hold people. It's even a more durable sidewall. I believe it's 8-ply or even higher. We could look at the tire in a moment. The tires are so very expensive, you're not looking at the traction on the tire. That will never wear out. You will never wear, there's hardly any traction on a lot of them now, but the thing is, the rubber on most of them is new. The tires were donated to us by a local bus transit authority, which were provided to us from Willie. And Willie got us all these tires for free right off of bus. They were used for about a year, so they were a year-old rubber. The sidewalls is the important part. That's where you're gonna get your flat tire unless you drive over glass or something stupid like that. Any tire is going to pop on that. But these are really strong tires. But you want to protect these tires. These tires can last you 15 years. But if the sun hits them, they're going to last 3. Do the math. Do you want these $350 per tire tires lasting 3 years or 15 years? Covering them is essential. If one of these gets lost, you can't afford not to make another one just like it and cover that tire. It's not one of those things you just go home and say, fuck it till next year. Trust me, you'll regret it. Then you're driving around with a sun-baked tire that's going to be cracking and possibly popping when you get all of a sudden 150 people on this thing. Bouncing. So, come on over here. As you can see, this is a Continental HD-R tire. Right here, regional traffic. That means this is a transit tire for people. All right, this tire was made in Germany. This is a really, really, really good tire. This tire probably weighs 110 pounds. I put 120 PSI of air in it. 120. 100 is not enough if you're putting a lot of people on the bus. 100's fine to get to Burning Man, but you need 120 if you're hauling lots of people. I believe, yeah, right here, 120 PSI, right here, 120 PSI. And I don't see how many sidewalls it has from standing up here, but I bet it's a lot. Cut.
inside and out before you take it to the playa to ensure that you don't get moop everywhere when you wash her. The third floor of the VIP room folds open so that there's a door so you can carry out items that you store in there throughout the season. We use a strap on the top and wrap it around the back of the DJ table up top. This year we have 2 straps up there, one going over the top and one going around the back side. Typically we store everything in the VIP room when the bus isn't being used, and we cover everything with a tarp to make sure that it doesn't get wet because the roof does leak.
All right, well, the new owners didn't show up when they said they would. So my wife and I, James left a while ago, decided that rather than do nothing all day, we would do what we said we would do. But it would have been great to have more than 2 people. We took all of our stuff off the Palace. We got the batteries hooked up, we got the engine started, then I changed the oil, which is not on the video. You don't want to over tighten the plug when you put it back in. You don't want to over tighten the filter. Other than that, it holds 6 gallons, SIX, 6 gallons of oil if you change the filter too. We took a pressure washer with a big water tank and a water pump in the truck. The generator powers the water pump. And we pressure washed with a gasoline powered pressure washer, 3,000 PSI, the entire Purple Palace. We started on the top deck, we went into the bar, then we did the areas of the top of the 2nd floor where bird crap was, and then we did the interior all the way from the back room forward, so all the water runs downhill, and then we pressure washed the entire outside of the bus, starting here, working our way around the whole bus. Kira scrubbed it with soapy water, and right after she scrubs, I pressure wash off. You don't want to let that dry between those 2 processes, or you'll have streaks all over you. Follow me. Out there, videotape the house from out there. So here you see a washed palace. You see the doors, zoom in on the doors and how they're strapped up. That's how we do everything prior to burn and before we put the railings on the staircase back in there. Hopefully sometime Brooks and Decker show up and they can help take the couches. Alright, so we're going to go into the bus now. Here you could look all the way back and see that it's quite clean now. No playa dust. It's already smelling better. It smells less like a farm. And I think this is Brooks. And we'll pause and say hi. System PA system, CB radio hookup. The CB radio here has 1 long wire coming from it. It has a normal looking plug. It says 12 volt on it on both sides. It says CB radio on that side. Over here we got CB radio 12 volts. It couldn't be more obvious. You plug that into that. This 1 wire here, that is a mono roller. You could tell mono mini plug. We're going to plug that into the PA. Over here, the antenna for the CB radio is mounted inside the truck to keep it in better shape. And this is its antenna right here. So you do have real CB radio access. Some art cars out on the playa do talk on the CB radio to each other, friends and friends. If you had some friends back here, base camp, you could have a base camp CB radio and easily talk over a powerful frequency and not one of these little mini things that generally get mixed up with other people's stuff. And this has a lot of channels on it, so you can pick a off-camera channel. You got 2 tightening nuts here, and it simply goes right into this bracket, and then you tighten both sides. Couldn't be more obvious. And with any luck, we'll have a PA system on the outside of the truck here in a second. Test, test. Let's see. Test, test, test. Test, 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 test.
Yeah.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Purple Palace. You had it on all the way before, didn't you? You left it.
I thought I turned it off.
All right. So the security system on the Palace is a
Which means that next year
four video camera system. It shows up as 4 different screens on this screen. We had a remote here. I dropped it off the other day, I believe.
So
It's right there. You really don't need it, but it does have one. The back of the monitor here has labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4 with dashed lines. All right. Each one of these 4 wires coming down is marked where it goes, bike rack, and then on each plug there's number 3. So we're going to plug that into 3. This one here is the right, so it's over there. It has a number 1 on it. We're going to put it on 1. The reason these are important is because if you plug them in the wrong way, the right side would come up on the left side of the screen here, and that would fuck y'all up. So this one here has 2 marks, so we're going to plug that into number 2. And we take this monitor home every year and keep it in a cool, dry place so that it stays working year after year. We don't leave this on the bus with the rest of the TVs because it's that important at nighttime.
What about the generators? What do you think about those?
They're infrared video camera system, so it shows up a lot better at night, but you have to dust the screens of the camera.
Yeah.
The power just runs up through this hole here, and you'll plug it in to one of these power strips up here. And it will turn on automatically every time you start the generators and power up this area of the bus. These 2 plugs up here are labeled in the electrical room front. All right, once you plug in front and power up one of those power strips, it will turn the power on for the black lights here, which are switched. With this switch right here. This switch turns on and off this black light. When people are boarding, it lights this whole area up real nice with black light, shows off their costumes. But when you're driving, if you turn it off, you can see a lot better outside. So that's the black light switch. All right. Your rear door master switch here. If the rear door is open, the bus won't move once you shut the air. But you really want the back door shut while you're moving. That's probably one of the biggest safety hazards on the bus if people are jumping on and off. That's the only way people have died on art cars the last few years out here that people have died is because they jump off moving art cars. Do not recommend that. In fact, you'll probably get cited by
So where's the switch?
the Rangers. This
it's
is
already labeled?
the master
So whenever
switch.
you open that back door, you flip that switch? Or?
No, you don't ever have to touch this unless it's giving you a problem that day. It's done it a couple times that even though the air was on, the door was shut, the bus still wouldn't move. We flipped this, we moved, and at the next stop it fixed itself.
So that's the bypass.
There's a lot of switches. It's a bypass,
Got it.
exactly. All right. Also in here, what I had is the video input, which is, I believe, this one here. This is, you'll see that there's only 2 contacts on it.
Yeah.
I believe that's the video input into the whole system right there. It is, yeah, because then right there it goes into this yellow, into that RCA. All right, so that's where you plug in
DVD player.
iPad, iPhone, DVD player, any kind of portable video device that has this type of output. You plug that in there. If you need to, you can plug it also into the RCA if it has that kind of output on it rather than the mini plug.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Mini plug can go into a iPad or iPhone, and yeah, got it.
All right, so let me show you where that goes next. All right. From there, it goes into the video channel of this box here. This box converts that video into a coax.
Yep.
All right. Once it's in coax, on channel 3, or you could set it to channel 4. It depends, but normally 3 is just fine because you're not going to have anything else. You could also put audio onto it too, but I never have audio because you're listening to a DJ. Then it comes over here into the video amplifier. Alright, right here. So this amplifier puts a lot more signal strength onto the coax. Alright, and then it comes out of there into a high frequency splitter, where you have it go to all the different areas of the bus that have video. Right here is your power for your amplifier. I'm going to plug that in right now.
Now is that on now, or TV's
No,
power
you
for
need
that?
to have power to the front for that.
Okay.
All
that's
right.
front power, okay.
All right, so that's your whole closed circuit video system. Obviously, with newer systems, HDMI's come out in the last several years, and if you want to keep a video thing going, you're probably going to want to convert all that to HDMI with a high power HDMI splitter, which are now available on Amazon pretty affordably compared to a couple years ago.
Nice.
Anyway, but this worked really great for us.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, son.
Yeah.
All right, the front driver's section of the bus has a lot of different features. I'm going to talk about the window over here first. This hole right here can take a self-tapping sheet metal screw to lock the window. It's the only way you can lock the window. If you're in a location that you want to lock the doors and have everybody upstairs having a private party, like at the burn, you don't really want to leave somebody down here at the burn, for example, and you want all your friends up there with you. We have had one particular year somebody push open this window, just somehow guessing that it might not be locked, and then he boarded the bus, stepping on every one of these controls down here, turning off the engine, making us have to come back and jump start it later because it was really easy to kick this. He was just a dipshit. And so from that point on, if nobody was down here and we were upstairs and we wanted the engine to be running, we just stuck a screw in here and locked the front window. All right, so I used a self-tapping sheet metal screw, and it was probably about 1 inch long.
Great.
And that was that. In fact, here it is right here. The bus comes with it right there. All right, so this is special. This is special. All right. All right, so back here you got driver's fan that blows air out underneath here and above you, and it can also be heated. All right, here I've never used the evap switch. I don't know what that is. The heat is just this one right here. You're never going to use any other vent or cool, because that would just be wasting electricity, because it doesn't do anything but suck ply dust in if it did. But the heat works great, and after the initial blow of ply dust, it doesn't do it anymore. This booster heat is a big diesel sucking burning thing that's about 2 feet behind me and underneath the bus. That is an auxiliary heater, and it does not work after it made its 3rd or 4th trip to the playa, but it never needed to work because just the heat alone right here is plenty for out here. It's not -20 in Minnesota. Your parking brake, here's a real important one. Once you go to JB's, back it into its spot. I don't know if this air bleeds out enough of something to release the parking brake and let the Purple Pals roll down the hill into all the other art cars in front of it. You have to remember to wheel chalk all the wheels with some rocks, and then put those tire protectors, the white pieces of plywood, up against the tires to protect the rubber. If you forget that, you have to come back and put them there. The rubber on these tires is more important than 1 year of no work and coming back to. You just got to do it.
Yep.
It's a lot of work to get these tires on there, and this rubber is good. All right, this dampening reset was for the articulating joint when it did work, and it is absolutely in op. Stop engine override. I'm not exactly sure that is, but it doesn't have any pertaining use. Okay, fast and normal. When the switch in the back of the bus where you start it from the rear is switched to the front of the bus, so this switch is all of a sudden operating. Once the engine warms up enough, and it knows that, if you put it in fast idle mode, it'll help warm it up faster and help pump up the air system faster so you can get on the road faster. And then you want to remember to flip it back to normal before putting it in drive to reduce stress onto the transmission when it goes into gear. All right. Your PA system works just fine, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the interior PA system of the Purple Palace. It works just fine. and it's not very loud, and if there's any music playing, there's no chance in hell anybody's going to hear it. But it's the stock bus PA system. It works fine. Aisle lights work great. They're fluorescent white tubing lights all the way down both sides of the first floor of the bus. And they are 24 volt, and they all have their individual ballast. They have some pretty funky bulbs. They're not the kind of bulbs you get at Home Depot. You have to get them on Grainger, and there's no reason why you'd ever actually replace them because there's so many of them. And you probably won't ever use this unless you're setting up the bus and it's running, or you're cleaning up the bus at the end of the night and it's running. But they'll suck a lot of juice from your batteries. If it's not running, it'll probably kill the batteries.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is this thing 12 volt or 24 volt?
It's all 24 volt.
It is,
But
okay.
there is some 12 volt stuff like this.
And where did you convert the 12 to 24? Or the 24 to 12?
I just pulled off of one battery because it's two 12 volt batteries that are synced into a series. And,
Okay.
And so it runs from negative to positive to positive to negative to positive. It goes around in a series.
Yeah, I got you. All right, cool.
Hazard lights, always run the bus at night with the hazard lights on all the time. They've never burnt bulb out. They work great. It adds lighting. It's what the DMV wants to see with such a big vehicle. And the tail lights on the bus are LED, so they're pretty bright, and everything else is incandescent. This start button has given me a couple issues a couple times. What I'm saying is it doesn't always work. But there's another one in the back. So you switch in the back above the engine, there's a switch that says rear and front. You switch it to rear, push the button back there, it'll start back there. You make sure this switch is turned on a day run, and then from in the back, you switch it to front while it's running, and it'll switch the control up to here so you can turn it off, on and off up here. All right? The only way to get the headlights on at nighttime is to have it on the front position in the rear, and then this is on night run here. If it's in the control of the back, it's on the control of the back. That master switch in the back by the engine is what sets that. All right. So if this switch doesn't seem to be starting it, go to the back, open up the thing, the engine compartment, push it to rear, hit the button back there, it'll start right up back there.
Nice.
It's happened to me like twice. It's been working great this year so far. I'm not too worried about it, and I would imagine this button is available at every bus part supplier in the country. It's just a big button. All right, to the dashboard up here. This is your panel light controller to turn up and down. That's just like a car. The retarder is for the winter driving in Minnesota, where this bus is from. You have wiper control and sprayer control up here. They do work, and all your wipers are controlled by air, not electricity. You have a voltmeter here. It works great. All your air tanks are shown here with the PSI. There's 3 double air tanks, so there's 6 big air tanks under the Palace. One of those sets of air tanks is right underneath me for the front brakes and the front door. Then there's a center air tank system, which I believe is right behind the articulating joint for those brakes. And then there's another one in the very back of the bus for those brakes and the rear door. So there's 3 sets of 2 air tanks. If you ever lose lots of air pressure really fast, it's because one of the air tanks has a hole in it or some rubber seal popped. And I've never had an air seal pop, but I have had a hole in an airbag, so we replaced all the airbags, and they will definitely last the rest of the life of this bus without any doubt. You'll never have to replace those again. Turn signal, the button is down here, and the light for it is right here. The other turn signal on the far side is over there. The button is right there. Your brights are right here. That's your bright switch right here. All right, high beam is what they call it on the dashboard right there. I've never had the check engine transmission light or no gen light come on. The generator alternator for this vehicle, along with the air pump, are gear driven, oil cooled, and they do not have belts. The one belt for this vehicle, which there's a spare belt behind the driver's seat right now, is the hydraulic pump. And it's a big double serpentine belt. It should be replaced the next year or two. All right. Never had hot engine come on, but when I do go up the hill from the ranch on the way to Burning Man, I turn the heater on just on that hill while I'm powering up that hill because you're giving it all this bitch has. So I turn the heat on just to get extra cooling coming into the bus rather than overheating the engine. All right? It does not have an engine temperature gauge up here. The only way you're going to know if you have a hot engine is that light right there. And I don't want to see that light come on, so I just turn the heat on for the hell of it.
This is for the ranch?
Yeah, that one hill
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
Burning Man and here. It's pretty steep for this bus.
Yeah, I remember.
All right. The low coolant light does work. We put a gallon of 50-50 mixed coolant in before the event. If the low coolant light comes on, make sure you add some coolant and water to the tank in the back, which has already been on the video. This is all surrounded by this one line here, articulating joint, articulating joint, made in Germany, and it had up to 32,000 PSI pounds of gas in it, and at one point in time the salt from Minnesota got to one of the seals on it and it leaked out, and I never fixed it because it doesn't lock up until you're going 30 miles an hour, and if you're going 30 miles an hour in this bus, you're probably dead. All right. The lift was...
So that light was on.
It's always on, yeah.
Very good.
It just says it's broken.
Great.
That's all it says. This whole area down here was for the handicap steps. They used to drop out. They used to pop out to a flat thing and then go up and down like an elevator right there. And that broke after the very first Burning Man, and even before that, when I got the bus, it was intermittently working. You had to kind of hand pump it. Obviously, the speedometer is self-explanatory, and I don't even know if the parking brake light works. But my biggest advice to parking brake and driving the bus here is I have sometimes stopped the bus in the middle of a lot of activity on the playa and left it in drive and just hit the parking brake. And that's not really a good thing. If something failed with the parking brake, it would all of a sudden start driving away on its own. And I've also not hit the parking brake and just hit neutral and not had it in the parking brake mode, and it could have rolled away or rolled onto somebody's foot. I've made both of those mistakes many times because you get so involved in the activity going around the bus. So always hitting neutral and then pulling up on the parking brake and then concentrating on whatever else you need to do is really important to get in the habit of doing every time you stop. All right, up here there is access to things in there that you don't really need to touch. There, I could see the buzzer in there right there. If something ever leaves that buzzer on all the time, but everything seems to be working fine, you could always deactivate the buzzer in there probably. Other than that, this seat is badass. It's full air ride. It has full air control. This button lets you go forward and back, and then you have like 5 different kinds of lumbar and tilting, and there's 2 more things on the other side. So at least it has that going for it when it comes to making you somewhat more comfortable.
Yeah.
There's a coat rack. I don't know. Okay, let's get to this thing here. We're going to have to listen to a buzzer since Decker forgot the key. All right.
Is that buzzer right there?
Yeah. Yeah, but you probably want that on there because when that goes off, then you know that you could drive the bus because the air filled up.
Okay.
And it does that until the air fills up, and that's it's pretty good. You should not even try to drive the bus until the air tanks fill up, and that is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 120 psi. So every single time you start this bus, you're sitting here for 10 minutes.
Got it.
All right, every time. All right, the Luminator has an EEPROM chip. It's permanently burnt. You can't change the words on it. I have an address, but you can find it on the internet too. For $400, they can put any words in here you want. But it's right now set to Humboldt, Chicago, Fremont. So how I can change that is I hit destination A, 1, 1, 2, enter, and wait. And then it goes blinking sign 0, blinking sign 1, blinking sign 2, 3, 4, and now it says Chicago Mall of America. So Mall of America was in Minnesota, where this bus is from. All right, so I think between 105 and 200, there is a different street and location all the way through the 100 to 200 range. So I don't know, I never wrote them down, but you know, destination A, 1, 2, 0, enter. All right, and it's gonna go through its startup. And this one is Fremont Avenue, Brookdale, Fremont Avenue. All right, it's Russian roulette. You could get whatever, and it's funny that it does work. If you take off these screws here, you can actually get to the fluorescent light tube in there. We changed it once and it burned out within a couple of years. It makes all the letters glow real nice at night, and we thought it was worth a shot because it burned out while we had it the first year or two out here. We might have put the wrong tube in, but it did fit and it did work for a while. But
is it just a black light?
Yeah.
Backlight, I mean?
It's just a regular white fluorescent tube, and it's up here on the top of the box.
So if we popped it out and put LED in there, it would look kind of neat. Right?
Oh yeah. You could just take these screws off. Just the top ones. It comes off pretty easy. It's made to be accessible, and all right. Another thing about this area up here is you probably want all the wires to be run. This is a spare RCA. I used to run the whole bus RCA before I went to XLR.
Where does that go?
Probably the power electrical room, and it's probably there. Yeah, I'm sure. It either goes to the electrical room or the other one goes all the way up to the DJ booth.
Oh, okay.
All right, one of the two. This is where you're going to keep all your personal items, because you're not going to wear a hip sack and you're not going to wear a backpack and you're not going to want all your shit where people can grab it on the bus. So things like gifts, stickers, things people give you, lotion, snacks, 12-hour energy, bullets of cocaine, all right here. It's not something that is immediately thought about for people searching you, possibly, unless they have dogs, like you guys have already run into. This also opens up here. You could hide stuff up there. Your crew could put stuff up there, but you want to watch where that door opens and closes to, so you want to test it and make sure they have a specific spot. But bottom line is, all three of these panels up here you can keep stuff in and keep them away from other people. Nobody has ever tried to open these because they don't even think about it.
Yeah.
All right, the back door and front door have air valves. They're master air valves. When you turn the valves, they either add air to the system to shut the door, or your door system is open with the key that Decker forgot. But either or, they both have their own red valves. The red valve for the front door is hidden. All right, it's right here. All right, so if there was air in the system here in the front tank, which it says 0, and I turned that to on, and the key was here, and it was set to close, and I flipped that to on, that door would shut right behind you. Cool. All right? If I turn this off, it goes psh, and lets all the air out of the system, and then you can push that door open manually with your hands. That's pretty much what happens with the back door every time you stop, so the door stays open the whole time. It's the type of back door system that is meant to be pushed with your hand, and there's a switch in the handle, and then it opens up for like 2 seconds, and then it closes back up, so the driver doesn't have a problem with people sneaking on the bus. So they come up to the front door to pay here, just like the city. We tried to think of ways to get that so when the front door was open, the back door would be open too and stay open, and they just didn't design the whole system that way. Other buses do have it like that, but this one doesn't. All right, so that's why every time we stopped and we're letting people on and off, the people in the back just immediately open the back door, and then it's open the whole time, and then we would buzz them, buzz, and then they would hop on the bus, turn the valve, the doors would shut, they'd double check to see the doors were shut by pulling them, and then we would look down there and we'd see them with a thumbs up or whatever, and then we'd drive. All right, that's over and over and over again all night long, every night that we drove the bus. That's how we did it. All right, I think that's with the front. There's a fire extinguisher sign here. Do not even try to go get your night license, and do not even try to go get your fire license next to the DMV, which is a separate license, without having a fire extinguisher directly below this sign, by the staircase in the bar, and then upstairs underneath the DJ booth with another one of these signs showing where the fire extinguishers are. You need at least 3 of them. You need bigger fire extinguishers than those baby things, and they need to be there. All right. I usually keep stuff underneath this area right here, like extra coolant. The belt is there, Armor All, glass cleaner, a towel to wipe fly dust off the windshield if you're in a dust storm out there and you want to be able to see easier when you drive back. I keep that stuff right there. It's what I've always done. All the windows work great. The fire. These just pull open on some of them. Some of them are kind of tight and they might break the handle off like this one did here, but most of them do work. You pull that open and you push real hard and they pop right open and they stay on. They don't fall off or anything. And those are the emergency escape window systems. These are real obvious. You can do half like that, you know. And they can also pop out, but obviously with the floor right there, you're not going to use it for an emergency exit. So these things stay open all the time unless there's a big dust storm, and then we shut everything and just kind of hide. The TVs all work. This is another sign that hooks to the same thing that we just played with up front. It says the same thing on the side. And then this is the number of the route, and then on the back generator compartment door, there's another one that shows the route number. Here's PA speakers. We had all the wires ripped off of the bus the first year. It was stored out at Mike Stewart's Orient Farm Ranch, and a different ranch. And so the reason this is like this is because $500 worth of wires were probably taken, and we got that really ruined our burn to the beginning, because we had to get all those wires within a week and get them back on the bus, and it was a real pain in the butt. So we wrapped all the wires on the bar here, put liquid nail all over the wires, wrapped them with duct tape to make it look a little bit better, and said, well, no one's going to want those wires, and it worked. No one's taken the wires since then. So that's why that is like that. And if I was to replace any of the fixtures or whatever, I would probably just cut the wire and splice. Like, I'd cut it right here, and then I would put this wire into the new encasement, and then splice them together inside there. And then you wouldn't have to screw with the wire and the duct tape and the liquid nail and all that crap. We took every seat off the bus that looked forward. Except for all the, when we left all the ones over the wheel wells, because there's nothing else you could do with those wheel wells right there, unless you built something special. But so we left the seats there like that, and they come in really handy, especially if there's a dust storm. People totally come down here, or if it's really cold out. The L-wire system that was here, I mean, you might want to reroute that, do it any pattern you want, but it's a 3-channel sequencer that's in the electrical room there. And these little areas right here are super fragile where they connect into the power wire. They've been broke many times, and we've had to replace them many times. This one's getting real short here. But the sequencer that's in there, I mean, that thing was probably $150, and all this L-wire is a bunch of money too. So you might want to use it, you might not, who knows. Let's get to the articulating joint here. Go ahead and cut for a minute. Alright. So don't put anything across above here or in here without thinking about what happens here when the bus turns. Alright? Obviously this has to be like this, because you're going to make a right turn, and that gets almost stretched to full length right there when you take a right turn. When you make a left turn, it's going to come all the way down to here. Alright? Think about that with the power cords up top. Look at that propane line I have run up top to the torches up there. There's slack and everything. You screw up on that, you could start an electrical fire because you're going to have a tight 120 volt cord that yanks apart, shorts out, gets hot, and then all of a sudden you're really screwed. All right, the articulating joint. Both sides open up. All right, so what you have here is the most important part of the entire bus except for the engine. Without this functioning properly, the entire bus is wasted. Turning too sharp is what will break this. The second thing that will break this is having way too many people on just the back end of the bus thinking I need to be on the third floor because it's way better than being on the second floor up here. You have to have some weight to offset it. It's just natural. That's why they build buses, to be balanced out. And it's the same thing here. We already have more than enough weight in the back. And then you add 30 or 40, 50, 60 people up there and nobody up here. You can't drive with it like that. You could sit around, you could have a party, you could do whatever, but you can't drive with it like that. All the stress on this little joint here is going to break it. Especially when you have this little joint doing this and then you try to turn it. All right? It can't do that. You have to be aware of this when you're making a sharp turn. So you come into that turn real slow and don't crank it while you're trying to go fast and go boom, because this isn't that strong when you're dealing with a 75,000 pound vehicle. This thing weighs a ton. Look at the size of the steel here. These are the shocks that have reservoirs that we're supposed to hold are supposed to have 32,000 pounds in it. That lock up when you go fast, and then they unlock when you go slow so the bus can turn around a tight corner in the city. So they were supposed to, once you got on the highway, they would lock up and make this a solid train car that does not turn. So you're getting pushed by an engine going high speed down the road, then it locks up, so you're staying like a train on a rail, and so it doesn't start waving. It does do that because it's top heavy, like no other, and it does do that because this doesn't work. Even if this worked, you still couldn't go fast. The top heaviness would kill you. All right? So, on this side, the way the articulating joint did work is there's a whole bunch of wires here and opti switches, and it knew where you were at all the time with little opti switches and sensors and things, but it doesn't really matter. All that really matters is that you see how this piece turns and all the weight goes between this plate and this plate here, these two areas here. So you're looking at a very, very fragile thing that can get broke if you don't think about it before you put it in a drive when the bus is possibly doing this. You just have to walk out and look at the bus. The bus doesn't have to be perfectly level, but it should be fairly close. All right? Other than that, this is greasable. Here's a grease zerk right here. This is a grease point. There's 4 of them. There's one there, and on the back side, they're underneath the steel a little bit more. You have to feel for them, and I'll show you. I would try to grease them every 2, 3, 4 years. I have greased them twice with good quality grease. And I don't know how long it lasts, but they're grease points. This is also where all your hydraulic, cooling, like liquid cooling, coolant cooling, and air and wires pass through. Wires also pass through over there. You can see a large wiring harness over there and over here. And you can see how they're slacked out. Over here, all the different liquids and air have to come through flexible line. I've never had one leak, and they look like they're really, really durable. You want to keep them out of the sun. You can tell that's really clean. We pressure wash this 2 times every year, once before Burning Man, once after Burning Man. What we do is when we're bringing the water from the back side of the bus this way, we have that lid on that side open, and it all comes into this area, and then I wash that area really good. And once we start from this side going that way, I wash this side really good, and then we close the hatch. We pressure wash in there, keep it really clean, make sure all those hoses are really clean, because obviously you just don't want one of those to get too plyified and and suck the moisture out of the rubber. Same thing with all these ribs. All this was pressure washed on both sides, all the way down into the articulating joint. All right, so we're gonna lift this side now. All right, see these little metal things can grab it, like right there. So right there, see that right there? There you go. All right. So this side looks similar to the other side. This side you can see the big linkage area into the center of that top piece of steel, which runs on the inside, and then the other side of the bus runs onto the outside piece of steel here. So this big huge steel plate is linked to that right there, and you can see how when the bus goes up the hill at the ranch and the front section goes up the hill and the back section is still back there, that's how that pivots right there where I'm pointing at, and also right there. All right, and then you have the front side of the bus holding onto that bottom part. So the bus is made to do things while it's doing that, but with all the weight back there, and you're doing turns in the city and stuff, I really, this is the whole bus except for the engine. But this you can't fix. The Detroit Diesel 6V92 engine in the back of this thing, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of those around the whole world. They're on boats, they're on heavy equipment, they're on everything. That engine is one of the most common engines on the planet. Easy to fix. This articulating joint, you kill that, the bus is dead. You're not fixing it. Not a chance in hell. All right? So that's the artic joint. The bus had a closed circuit TV system for...
Can we do a separate clip?
All right, so the center spur in the middle of the articulating joint used to have seats mounted on it here and here. Those two seats are currently sitting in our yard at our house and on our patio outside our bedroom. And they also mounted maybe down low, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, this area right here where I'm walking and all the way around can hold weight through, I think, the front section of the articulating joint. And that's why we're able to let the bridge pivot on this point right here. There's not weight pushing down on it, but it holds it and pivots on it. So it's a pretty solid member that rotates in the middle of the two pieces. All right, so it is steady, and if the bus is turning, 45 degrees can be here and 45 degrees are here, and this is going to be in the middle of those two. All right, so the articulating bridge is placed perfectly, and it absolutely needs to have that piece of metal pipe coming down and into that while you're here. And you absolutely have to remember when you leave Burning Man to take the bridge out and put it back up front into its little holding area. If you forget to do that, you will destroy the bridge, and you will hear it. It will sound like thunder.
Can we weld something to this piece?
I would imagine. I wouldn't think you'd want something in between here because of the bus doing this. Yeah.
But is it rigid or like just this way around?
What did you have in mind?
I don't know.
See.
All right. Air mass is you're gonna pull it all up the stairs here, and all this wire will run up those top two steps, and then it's already split. You can see one way here and one way here. This goes to the back of the bus, and this goes up toward the front of the bus, and there's plenty of slack in it to drape in the articulating joint area. You're going to have two power strips in the articulating joint area for lighting on both sides and or speakers. I don't know how much power your speakers drain, and I don't know how much power you could run through, for example, power strips, but it is there. And there's also some speaker wires in here you probably won't be using. And there's power for lighting on both sides of the railings on the rear of the second floor, and there's two power wires for the disco pole up front. So a total of 2 disco pole circuits, 2 circuits for the articulating joint, and 2 extension cords for one side of each rail on the second floor rear railing areas. So that's 6 power cords to distribute power amongst the entire front of the section second floor of the bus. It's all right here. All right. We're going. There you go. There are screws sticking out of this wood all over underneath these stairs, and I don't want anybody to get cut on them. We put some liquid nail over them. We never cut them off, but they hold all the power strips and things on the other side of the wood. All right. All the wires that go through the articulating joint that we just talked about, the drape, go through that one piece of metal right there. There's really nothing up under there that you need to get to. All this light rope is 120 volt light rope. This light rope should be on anytime you're operating at night because people have a tendency of not seeing the steps and they'll trip down and you have a liability thing there. These light up the stairs great at night. They help immensely when you have 2 rows of people going up and down and everybody is trying to be the most important people on the planet.
How do you turn them on?
It says light rope stairs
on
on
the back,
the
yeah.
other side of the wall here.
Cool.
This tarp must cover every single thing in the bar when you leave the bus at the ranch. If it's not covered, it will get wet. If it gets wet, it will get moldy. The couches, the carpet's unreplaceable. It's the nicest carpet. Try to take care of it because you're not going to find more casino carpet that nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This container we usually keep drinks, water, beer, and beverages in, but it has a locking hasp. This piece of rope holds the door open so you don't have to hold it with your head. You pull it, the door will shut. Put it back. There's a piece of rope, holds the door open. Simple. Back door. This is as self-explanatory as possible. You need to drive it. It's for your people to see. Closed. All right, there goes the door closed. All right. There, look at that. I didn't touch a thing. And then open, push the door open. Really simple. If you want to see it any better, you could open this area. I highly recommend front and door lube jobs on a yearly basis with something at least like WD-40 or liquid wrench or something better. But everything that you see move in here, you'll see tracks. You'll just have move the door, and anything that you see that's moving, you'll see it oily. That I've already sprayed it. Spray it with some WD-40. These joints, those joints, this joint, same thing over here. There's rails in there that are shiny. There's joints here. Keep moving the door a little bit, back and forth, like that. That joint, that joint, that joint way over there. Lube all that with some spray lube because the ply dust kills it. It's never broke, and that's because I take really good care of it. I maintain everything in here with spray lube. Highly recommend doing that yourselves. All right.
Do you do that after the burn each year? Or
Before. I just do it before.
Uh-huh.
Just before, yeah. Come on in, Dicker. Alright. Where'd that power come from? It came from this one inverter on the right. I just flipped this switch right here.
And then you got your light.
Turn the inverter on. Try not to plug fluorescent tubes into inverters. It can handle 1, maybe 2, but it doesn't want a whole bunch of them. You can see the fluorescent tubes out there on. This is how I designed this room. Everything on this wall is power in from A, B, and C. Out there in the back of the bus, there's wires coming down into the bay called A, B, and C. Mm-hmm. So this is all your power you have. You have 12 different outlets if they're all charged up in this room, and they're run with pretty big wire. All right, so they're at least 15 to 20 amps per set of outlets, and every cord is labeled. This says number 4 on it. Here's number 4 power strip over here. So you have a lot more plugs than you have outlets over here, so you have to have these strips plugged into these outlets. So I took each section of the bus and plugged it into a different strip here. All right. So number 1 would be the front of the front upper dash of the bus, like I just said in the video here. Mm-hmm. This is also the L wire thing here that you guys were taking off the L wire. This is the sequencer. It sequences it like this. So they're on and off and on and off, and they sequence back and forth. There's also L wire in here from number 3. All right, so number 1 is logically the front of the bus. Number 2 would be the next part back from the bus, like the black lights and the TV up front. Number 3 here I had as the 3rd floor and the VIP room. The VIP room is the bar. Number 4 I had for all lighting. That's the disco poles and the staircase. Here's your stair plug that you were asking about here. So stairs on it. Every single thing is labeled on both ends. Everything is even also possibly color coded. For example, yellow and blue, meaning lighting at night or daytime, all the time stuff I needed. Like I always needed power for the front here, but I didn't need the disco poles on at night. I didn't need the VIP room on at night, or during the day, I mean. So daytime, nighttime, I think is how I did that. Then there's 2 more power strips over here, which I ran all my amps from. All right, so all my amps used to stack right up here to this high, and then I had these eye bolts down here with a strap over my amps to hold my amps down so they didn't rattle around while I was hitting bumps or whatever. All right. The inverters have 2 positive wires to each inverter, and then this bar right here is the negative. You don't want to spray any water in here unless you have saran wrap wrapped around these all the way a bunch of times to keep any water out that might spray up into these. Each one of these is $500, and then you got all the time to wire it up.
Yeah.
And
Don't break them.
they're invaluable for having that power off the engine, including when you're driving to and from the ranch. If you want tunes during the art tours during the day, you don't want your loud Jennies going. You just want possibly one sound system going and just quietness.
Yeah.
During the temple burn, shut every single thing off. And I mean everything. You will find more enemies than you ever wanted if you leave any generators, any lights, the engine, anything on.
Yep.
Turn it all off at the temple burn.
Yep.
Right?
Got it.
At the man burn, crank up the music, party like a rock star, let the DJs take it over. So every one of these power strips is meant to plug in to wherever you have power. And my generator was just a single generator, and I usually only had 2 of these going, and then these 2 going here, and that was enough. So my generator was 6,500 watts total. So I was probably pulling 5,000 off of it, and then probably another 2 and another 2. I was probably using 8,000 watts. That's with a lot of lighting, 5 TVs, 5 amplifiers with a big crown amp on a dual JBL sub box, another 18-inch sub up top with its own amp, and it all ran, no problem.
8,000.
8,000 watts total.
What do we have in the back?
I think you have 16
Yeah.
peak. Those are small Jennies. I haven't seen that much power come out of a generator that small. I'm pretty impressed. All right, this cord right here should always be plugged in if anything is producing heat in here, including the inverters. They make heat. And that fan right there sucks all the air out of the back of the whole bus, not just this room. Your biggest complaint, if you do not have this fan running from people that are working for you, that have to sit back here and be doormen, guarding that door and that door, is it will get warm back here because the engine's back here.
Yeah.
And all that heat will come up through the floor back there.
How do you turn on the fan?
So you just plug in this cord right here.
Okay.
All right. So that's your
You come
main.
back here and plug it in to get it running.
Yeah, depending on
You
what.
can't run it from the front.
No.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, just plug it into whatever you have power running into here with. Okay, because you're gonna have at least power. You're gonna want to try to run your amps in the articulating joint area, and the front of the bus, wherever you have speakers up there. You're definitely gonna be powering them from in here.
Okay.
All right, you just can't run new wire everywhere. This works great, and all those wires are already run.
Okay.
They're all 15 amp cords. Your speakers can't use more than that.
We're gonna grab those amp wires there, hon,
Okay.
because they're not ever gonna need that. Should be fully operational. The pump is right there on top of the tank. I would put 5 gallons of water in it, and what you have to do is kind of hope that the motor primes itself enough to get fluid up this tube into this pump. If this pump is dry, it seems like it has a hard time priming the first time of each year. To get it needs like wet rubber seals in there to get its maximum suctionability. All right,
This is the toilet.
this is the toilet.
So there's 2 toilets.
Yeah.
One just drops into the on the ply, and the
Yeah.
other.
This one
stores.
holds it.
Okay.
And then to get it, there's the piston button up front, and then it drains it out of this tube, which is underneath the bus right now. It's hanging.
You hit the piss tube and then just dumps this.
Yeah, like you want to be moving down the ply while you're pumping it out. Yeah, and you want to make sure this is working with water before you let anybody piss in it, because then you're gonna be fucked. All right. So
Yep.
once you see that it's working, then you do it, and that's how I've done it the last couple of years. But it was working the last time we used it. You just need to get it primed with water into that pump.
Okay.
All right.
We would, when it got really full, we'd kind of just go out for a long drive, deep playa, and drive around in
wide part,
circles
yeah.
and just hold that
And
button.
you tell if it's full just by looking at
Oh
it.
yeah, just looking at it. The trash fence at 10 o'clock is really smooth right now, and everywhere, like from the Great White Camp to the trash fence, is pretty smooth out there. Don't even think about driving this vehicle anywhere near like the Embrace sculpture out there. The ply's screwed over there this year. And
Yeah.
this looks like a big vehicle that you should be able to plow through stuff. It doesn't do it like
You know,
that
it's
because
if a
people up on the
bicycle
third floor.
it should have avoided, the pallet should have avoided.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Because it's gonna shake everybody. It'll get there. You're not gonna get stuck, but it's bad
It's
for the
miserable.
articulating joint, and
Yeah.
everybody upstairs is getting beat up,
Less fun.
and it just feels stupid, like you shouldn't be there.
Yep.
You'll know.
Yep.
You'll know. All right. What else? Kira's cum cage. This does work. It just needs batteries. You pop off the back cover, and
Cops were not happy about that door.
they didn't like this.
They wanted to know the code, and I didn't know it.
Wasn't it open?
It was blocked somehow. They went on the other side, but they flipped for a little bit.
Really?
They thought they hit the jackpot, basically.
Because of the.
they thought that meant something was good.
What you got back there? Well, you should go find out.
I believe we have keys for that lock as well.
Yeah,
What's the-
we gave
need to
them
get-
some.
Oh, you gave them
We
two?
gave them keys.
What is the code for it? Do you know?
I don't know. It's probably 0799, but you can change it by pushing a button on this. I think on this side in there once you get the batteries in it. But I think the door might be aligned. Need to be aligned. So that's why we gave you those keys. They're like American flag keys.
Yep.
And it was even easier to have somebody do the key thing. 'Cause
Yeah.
then when you're walking down the door, you unlock it, and then you have to go over. I don't know.
Figure it out.
It does work, but you might need to get it aligned to this hole better. This room. This room has strobe lights. They're hooked into the battery system, and there is a switch. Do you remember where the switch is, hon? Oh, here it is, right here, right next to this strobe here. There they go. All right. So if you leave them on, it'll drain the battery. So at nighttime, you walk around the whole bus after everything's off, and you just look around
For all the shit
for
he's
anything
left
that
on.
has lights and
I'm
turn
used
it
to
off.
that.
Yeah. So here we got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strobes in here. The black lights also work great in here, and they make this pop like a motherfucker. It looks badass.
If we stop deep playa for like a couple hours to party, do we need to walk around and turn things off? Or killing the engine?
I just keep the engine on.
Just keep the engine on.
Well, unless you're not using the inverters at all. If you're not using the inverters at all, you could shut off the engine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. If you're not using any power off the inverters, you can shut the engines off and have all the power running off your generators.
Otherwise, just leave it on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we're running anything off the inverters, leave it on.
Turn the inverters off first, then shut the motor off. You have to. cannot have the inverter sucking any power from those batteries, even for a minute, once the engine's off. Can't. It's going to be jump starting it and charging it on the fly at that point. Alright, so this room is fairly self-explanatory, other than the strobe lights there. That's about it.
And the camera that's old.
Yeah, they're not hooked up to anything. It was a special kind of box that was mounted in the front. That was like
Cool.
what you might find on any city bus, or like jet fighters with their own special data cartridges or whatever, you know. Let's move on up. All right, the bar or the VIP room. We've called it both over the years. The room has lighting all the way around the top, which is a 120 volt LED rope light, and no matter what we do, the little pads that hold it up fall off. Hot glue, liquid nail, spray glue or something, you want to reattach them. It makes it look a lot classier if they're not just hanging down like that. We've done it a zillion times and they just keep coming off. It's really hard to get a screw gun in there, but if you could get a self-tapping sheet metal screw into each one of those little pads, which there is kind of a little thing for that, you could hold them up better. Both black lights work great. All the paint on the ceiling is black light reactive. None of the paint on the sidewalls is. If you hang like an RGB light, the reason everything is red, blue, green in here is because it RGB'd with LED lights, and so it completely changed the pattern of everything every time it changed the colors, which was fun. But yeah, hopefully you can find somebody that's a better artist than we were. But it used to be just silver in here by itself, and it looked kind of crappy when the water would run down the silver paint and you could see the lines here and there.
Yeah.
And so we wanted at least to get some color in here. And we didn't have anybody that was really good with a spray can or anything. Over there in that bag, you could take that bag off. We only had it on there because this room leaks in the winter, like I said. So you want to cover everything with a tarp here. Your rolls of carpet, like these rolls that you're going to roll up after the event, everything has to be rolled up. If you leave it like this, it will be ruined, and this whole room will be completely toxified with mold next year. 100% for sure. Remember that you pull these railings before you try to pull the carpet. Alright? All the carpet on the whole bus gets rolled up and then elevated off of this floor at least 6 inches, preferably on something like this. Then all the couches get stacked on top of that, and then everything gets covered with a tarp all the way down to the floor, and then you cover the tarp all the way around with rocks to hold it down. Alright, so it's really, really important for you not to get in a hurry to leave the bus at the end of this year. If you do, you're going to ruin a lot of stuff that you own. Alright, so L-wire is one of the most fragile things on the planet if you've ever had any experience with it. If that gets bumped or hit or anything, all of that will break really quickly. Right now, all these strands work. They're hooked into about a $140 sequencer, and that sequencer can do about 10 different patterns on the ceiling in here, and it looks really cool when you're coming up the ladder and you're just looking into this room that you've never been in before, and it looks cool. And then it looks really cool when you're climbing that ladder too, but it's something, and it does work right now.
Where did the RGB lights go?
The bus came with no lighting, except for this and these black lights and stuff, but I didn't sell the sound or lighting. That was...
Cool. Where did you put them? You just had
Oh, where did I hang them?
Yeah.
I hung one that way, aimed at that wall, and then I hung one up that way, and I aimed it at that wall.
Cool.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, sorry. What else in here? This room had 2, I think it now has 3 power wires coming up to it. We added one when we put the big fridge in here. So there was one in that corner over there that also powered the black light outside, which made the dish look really nice when it was painted with black light paint. And then there was one up front here, a power strip up here that powered the television that sat on a table right here. So couch goes here, table went here. We had a TV right here that hooked into the closed circuit TV, one of those little 13-inch TVs. Same kind of TV that goes into that box right there, that slips in there, right above the staircase. And the smallest TV on the bus went next to the speaker upstairs. And then another TV went on the disco pole. They're kind of a pain in the ass, and it's probably going to be one of the first things I eliminated from the palace if I was going to do anything was take the TVs off. But it was really fun to have, for me, it was fun to have porn playing on all the TVs. Some people think that's pretty gay or stupid or dorky or whatever, but to me, it really weeded off the assholes off the bus that couldn't handle it. People that were mature enough to have porn playing around them, real burner type people, people that just didn't give a shit because it's not that trivial. Those are the people I wanted on the bus. People that were babies that couldn't handle having porn around them, well, fuck you, get off the bus. That's my mentality. It really weeded out some of the chodes. And it's just porn. I mean, if you take offense to porn, if you think it might reflect on your, coolness at Burning Man, it doesn't. It's just funny. I mean, it really is funny to see people's reaction. It's just fucking people. Alright, so I played a lot of porn, but we also had a lot of video effects on the TVs. But it was always interesting to see reactions. It was amazing to watch tourists, people that have never been to Burning Man, get on the bus, see the porn, right back off. And I was like, yes! My job was done.
Nice.
That's cool.
Honey, where are the duvet covers?
In the bag downstairs.
We have them. Okay, so you guys are going to have brand new purple duvet covers for both these mattresses. And the duvet covers will go over that mattress and this mattress. And then those mattresses will go on this wood piece here.
Okay.
Somebody special get here?
No, I thought it was somebody that I was waiting for. It's not.
Okay. So we have purple duvet covers to go on these two mattresses. Those two.
Great.
And then this goes in front of these doors when you drop them down. All right. So you'll drop the doors down, put this there, put the mattresses on top of that, put a strap right in the crease of where the mattresses come up the door a little bit, and hold that back down. And then these doors are locked, and people have a huge chill couch out here.
Cool.
If that's what you want to do.
Yeah,
you might
that sounds
put
right.
you might put speakers in.
There are going to be speakers up against there.
So you might get rid of this. But that's how we did it. And that's what I'm here to tell you.
Yeah, thank you.
Come on through here, Kara. We're gonna go to the back.
I have a question. While we're going through that, do you want to just hook this thing up? Do you have that piece?
Okay. No, I didn't bring that. But
Oh, no? Okay.
No.
Okay. You have that?
We'll get it done. That's one piece I think I forgot. We might have it. So
What's the maximum amount of people we can have
30.
in this area of the bus before we need people up there, up front?
driving?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have more than 15 people back here with nobody up there.
10, 15.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah. I would generally, on the way to art tours and stuff, we might have 10 or 15 people up here, and then we'd put 100 up there, and then we'd have another 15 up here, 30.
Okay.
You
30
just,
max
you
for
just
this
gotta
whole
watch
area.
the bus. You get off the bus and just look at it. Is it
If
doing
we
that?
If we had 120 total distributed well, how many more can you have down in the belly of it?
There's no limit to how many people you have downstairs.
Okay.
That's a good place to have everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
The bar here, we've only used it 1 year. It worked great for the booze. We had it all lit up with the LED rope light around here, and if it keeps clean, it's clean. The ice, having cold ice is invaluable compared to all the slushy ice in the coolers at 2 in the morning. People really appreciated that. And the fridge, we would run it off the generators or the inverters while the bus was running, and then once you get back to your home here, it's best to have another cord coming probably from somewhere here. You drop it down the back of the bus and you plug it into your camp power so that the fridge runs all night long and you're not running the generator in the back of the palace.
Nice.
You don't do that, your shit thaws out. So it's one of those end of the night checklist items.
Got it.
Plug fridge in,
Okay.
right? motor system consists of a pilot hose, gas hose, pilot on off. There's a pilot fine tune adjuster up top, which is a brass valve. You have a master shut off here. You have another one up there. You have a whistle valve up top. Here you have a fill valve with a control. And this is a forklift tank. And you're going to want to strap the big 100-pound tank down right here. It's a 23-gallon tank, 100 pounds. You'll just run the cord out from the power strip around out this under this door right here and zip tie your cords everywhere they go, and it'll run that light. And that light, thus far, has never not worked. I've been outdoors for 8 years. It's pretty amazing. And I pressure wash right on it, like just. It's pretty This whole rear part is dangerous. That area made the railings a lot better the last time. Those railings were all the way to do the last time we were out here. They used to not have that same part. But everything's dangerous. Considering some people are here. Blowing these logs around like you're the owner of a car and or a doorman. Some people are just stupid. You have to tell them they really shouldn't be up here and they should go home. You can't be a nice guy and safe together. You know, you gotta really lay the law down. It can be dangerous. Most of the time, everybody is super mature, cool burner type people, but God, you get that drunk stuff. It's always that drunk fun. It's the drunks. Watch the drunks. The drunks come out after 2 a.m. on the plyos. 12 midnight, they start getting bad. 2 a.m., it's stupid. And it's stupid at 2 a.m., right on the dot. Watch what you're doing. That's the time that shit gets rough. That's what we do. If you just all of a sudden decide to stop and have a party, that's totally different. People get on and off all night, they're fine. But it's the way they deal with you when they want to ride, like I don't want to get on, then they have to pee, and they want to go somewhere, and someone asks where you're going, tell them you're going to Black Rock City. It's fun to see them say, "Oh, great." This is the number one answer. Black Rock City. That's what Captain Nemo on the Nautilus does. You'll meet him this year, I'm sure, if he's out here. He's a good guy. There's a lot of old school art car drivers that all of a sudden you're going to be in the club with, and they're really great. It's fun. So we pull up next to the same guys.
I'm trying to keep them on
The flags add
side.
a lot to the.
So like that, and then what we would do, we would just pull up we would just put them on Monday and throw, wrap these around like this, put a zip tie on it, and then the day the event started, we cut all the zip ties and let the flags go. The colored ones go on the yellow poles,
Okay.
and the white flags
Go on the
go
side.
on the silver poles. And again, you just do the same thing with the grommets, flush on there. And these ones, because of the steels, just got holes in it. They're not exact to the flags, and you have to just pull them right there.
Those holes in the flags are from a temple burn that blew ashes on us from a freak wind, and some people that smoke cigarettes will just not think about where their cherries are going when they're smoking them. Let's go ahead and grab that bolt. There's the bolt box. Let's put 2 on for him right now, and then I'll reach over.
I do, but I can reach over.
We're just doing 2. It makes it a lot easier than ones have been extended 2 different times because the flags would flap up and hit people in the face. So we kept putting them further out so that they wouldn't flap up and hit people in the face so easily. And when they did hit people in the face, the people would take the ends of the flags and tie the flags to this fence and ruin the flags that way because the wind would catch them like a sail and then rip them apart. So we made the poles longer. One of the daily jobs of the bus, other than cleaning and shutting everything down at the end of the night and plugging the refrigerator in, will also be to undo the flags that get rolled up on each other. It's pretty simple with a stick or whatever. Well, cleaning is the next day. You'll have a pinning crew before you go out every day because people are going to leave a lot of trash. Cigarette butts. You're going to straighten everything out. You're going to clean the bar. You're going to put bottles together. If you have 2 tequilas open, you might put them into 1 bottle. Cleaning up cups, cans, trash, putting new trash bags in. All these types of things. It takes about half an hour for 3 people to clean the bus every day after a good party. All right, this is your hydraulic fluid reservoir with clear check deal here. You can see at the level. Your lid, filter when it was replaced, and this is a pressure gauge that kind of works because it's hard to see through, but that doesn't really mean anything. I've never had a hydraulic fluid failure, leak, or any problems. All this fluid in this reservoir was changed this way. I would say you're probably going to go for another 4 years at least because of limited use and hydraulic fluid gets old like motor oil. So they both can get cooling and fresh air. Cooling for the cylinders, fresh air for the intake manifolds. You want those 2 things, and that's what that provides 2 very important. All your wires, you got A right there I can see that goes into the electrical room, and there's also B and C up there. You're going to want to plug at least 1 or 2 of those in there so you have power for all the systems that are going through the electrical room. And the pole. No pole? Here, it's a white steel pole. Alright, there was a white steel pole in here. You want to get it back. It's similar to a scaffold. Right now you're on the front circuit, so your start button in the front will start the engine. If I put it on the rear circuit and I push this button right now, it will start. The front engine switch will not be able to control this engine whatsoever. Fast and slow will not work. None of that works until you put it on day run. Put this back to the front. As long as that switch is on day run, it will stay running. It'll stop for a second, but it won't stop. The air conditioner was taken out. That does nothing. And I think this is the engine compartment lights they're burning out. This was an air starter system. It's still on here. I've never even tried to use it, but you could put it up. This is like some kind of pump thing and hydraulic reservoir thing. I've never used that or had to deal with it. It's one of the only things I don't know about in here. This is the back side of the air filter. When I haven't started the engine for a while, like a year, I spray starting fluid into this one little tiny hole right here. Just enough, like a good squirt and enough. And that's it. And that extra starting fluid lets it start instantly. It started. You'll see the video. After 2 years, it's started. Alright. This cooling system on this leaves your heads, I'm pretty sure. So this is leaving your heads and goes back into the upper part of the radiator. Then your lower radiator is coming from down here through your water pump right here. Your water pump pumps into the engine journals here, your heads, and around your engine crankcase. It comes up through your heads, back into the radiator here. The cooling system is hydraulic. It is not electric. It is not engine driven with a belt. It is hydraulic fan. It's kind of unique. You don't see that very often. It's always worked really well. It's also adjustable, self-adjustable, so we can speed up and slow down depending on how hot your engine goes, and that makes it really cool. Turbocharger is back here, so the air comes straight from the air cleaner directly into the turbocharger, and it goes straight from your turbocharger into intake manifold and the head. Both heads have their own blowers. So this is a 2-stroke turbo blown engine. It has a blower. So this is one of the most uncommon things. And a blower. Supercharger. Turbo supercharged engine. Gas tank. It's sucked here from the gas tank. Goes through primary filter number 1. Goes here to fuel pump. Alright, from fuel pump it gets pushed. And from fuel pump it gets pushed back to this tube back here where my hand is, right here. And up through this thing here. This little box right here hooks to the lid of the computer. This is the computer for the engine. This lid is cooled by diesel fuel coming from your tank to cool the computer without a fan. There's O-rings in here that can go bad. They went bad once since 1992. I had to replace them already. It was sucking air into the system. From here it goes down here, being pushed through the secondary filter, and then into the intake areas of the engine right here, where your fuel injectors are. Alright. This is your reservoir for your coolant up here, which is accessible from the side of the vehicle.
Okay.
Alright. Temp gauge. Oil pressure gauge. Don't really need a key, obviously. Down here is your hydraulic fluid pump. It's the only belt-driven thing on the entire vehicle. There's one double-wide serpentine valve that has never been replaced since I've owned the bus. There's a brand new one behind your driver's seat. So there's one pump back here, belt-driven. This old alternator has never been used and does not need to be used for any reason. It was an auxiliary unit for the air conditioner. The air conditioner was right there. I've never had a weld break on the